Happy May 1st. Happy Beltane and May Day. Hi, sisters. I'm coming to you today with something that is very important in my world, in my healing sessions with clients, and in my own journey of healing, and it is healing shame. Shame and the belief that are connected to shame, which is I'm flawed, I'm bad, or I'm not good enough. So for me, speaking about shame is really important because it is by bringing our awareness and bringing this subject and this very destructive emotion into the light that we can heal ourselves and heal collectively from this belief that there's something wrong with us. So first of all, I just want to normalize it and say that every single human being experiences shame. And let's break it down into, first of all, where does it come from? Then I will talk about symptoms of shame so you can self-identify, and when you're able to see clearly when you are affected by something on a deep subconscious level, that you are bringing it into the light by simply watching it and allowing yourself to see yourself and be the study of yourself. And then we will look at symptoms from the level of what does it look like physically in the body when shame is present? What does it look like emotionally? And what some of the behaviors that we engage in when we are under the spell of shame? And then we will look at what does the healing looks like? What does the shame need from us for us to heal from it? And we will also look at how shame and guilt are two very different emotions. And we'll understand at the core what is the differences and also how we heal shame and guilt differently. So first of all, let's all take a deep breath because it can be an intense conversation and an intense exploration. So let's just put your hands over your heart and exhale and relax into knowing that this is a human experience. And if you experience shame or feelings like something is wrong with you or you're not good enough and you're experiencing comparison of yourself to others who you feel you perceive them being better in some way, I just want to say it's absolutely 100% human, and we are on this journey together. I see this in my work with clients all the time. I see it in our group, Confident Healer Academy, all the time. And it is through having community like this one that we can heal this deeply societal, deeply rooted trauma and conditioning that so many of us Westerners are experiencing from very, very young age. So as I said, let's break it down. First of all, what is shame? So shame is the emotion that is tied to the belief that I am bad or flawed, or there is something wrong with me, or I'm wrong. That feeling that I'm wrong, that belief, I'm flawed, I'm bad, I'm wrong, and the underlying emotion lives in the body. And it's very tricky because unlike other emotions like sadness, grief, anger, fear, sadness, love, we can a lot more easily identify that emotion in our bodies and we know that feeling. But shame tends to be an emotion that is not easy to identify. And also it is very similarly felt in the body as guilt. So these two, shame and guilt, feel very similarly in the body, but they're very different. And I'll explore in a moment. So every time that we have a belief, limiting belief, it is always connected to a certain emotion. So belief is a mental construct. It's a thought, repetition of thoughts. And the emotion, it's a feeling. But you can think of the feeling as a glue that glues your mental belief into the subconscious, and it also lives in your body. It's somewhere in the body where there is stuck energy if it's connected to something that isn't really your true nature, which is love and peace and bliss and connection to source and connection to each other and your heart. So let's look at, where does shame come from? And how do we experience shame? So when this belief that there's something wrong with me, I'm flawed or bad, when it is intact, it is very difficult. We always feel a sense of fear of being exposed and fear of being visible. So just take some notes as I'm talking. Maybe you can even have notes near you and write down what are some of the symptoms that you notice. Are you afraid of being visible? Of going, for example, doing a Facebook Live or sending a newsletter, or being around people who you are afraid that they will judge you, or you're afraid that somebody will perceive or somehow you'll be discovered as flawed, that you won't know what to say, or you will feel bad about your look or your appearance or body image. So at the core of all of this is shame, emotion, and the belief that there is something wrong with you, either physically or you're mentally or emotionally. And there's a lot of fear of vulnerability, of being vulnerable, and it also prevents us from experiencing authentic connection with others and intimacy with others. And it's hard to be yourself. It's hard to just, here I am with all of my flaws, mistakes that I've done, that I've made in the past, completely imperfect. So it's really, really hard being imperfect when underneath you're hiding and are afraid of showing yourself fully because there's shame and the belief that there's something wrong with you. And shame developed in an earlier age, when you were young, when there was lack of boundaries in your home, and when there was some kind of level of dysfunction in your family home, in the childhood home, and boundaries were not honored. And that leads to development of feeling that there's something wrong with you, and shame as an emotion. It also can come from certain dogmas and institutions like churches and society's norms, where a child shamed for whatever that is, shamed for how they talk or shamed for how they behaved, like this shame on you. And that is incredibly damaging for the young person. And it leaves a person feeling like there's something wrong. Because as a young child, we are like sponges. We sponge everything and we take everything as true and real. And we don't understand that where it's really coming from. Maybe we don't ever question whether our family authorities had the right perception, or churches or societal institutions, that what they are imposing on us is a reflection of their conditioning and not the reflection of who we are at our core. And we take it as something is wrong with me. It can also come from bullying. If you were bullied as you were young child by teachers or kids, then you might have developed that feeling that there's something wrong with me, and shame as an emotion. And as young minds, when social institutions impose those feelings, it leaves us feeling broken and feeling like we're different, that there's something wrong, and a lifelong of recovery from whatever happened. And in the dysfunctional family, the child takes on the shame of the family secrets. And maybe there was a family secret, and the child is carrying that shame of the family secrets. And also, parents use shame as a way of controlling and manipulating children, and it's very dysfunctional. So let's look at the signs, some of the physical manifestations, so you can identify for yourself. And again, the purpose of me sharing all of this with you is you developing deeper compassion for yourself and greater awareness of some of the things that might be you're afflicted by, that are creating blocks in your life where you're not able to fully thrive and shine and share your gifts and be the fullest expression of you. And when we shine light and develop greater compassion for all the ways that all this untrue beliefs were imposed, you took it on like a sponge, that you also open up to incredible healing potential for you to release and be free and not be afflicted by shame and belief that you're wrong, that you're bad, or something is wrong with you. So let's look at the physical symptoms. One of the physical symptoms is difficulty of keeping an eye contact. It's like your eyes are trying to, like if you're in a conversation with someone, and it's really hard for you to look and to just be fully seen. And you might look down, like how this feeling where you close down and you look away or turn your eyes away from the person or from the group of people. Stuttering is another physical manifestations of shame, and it developed in a young age, where it's like nervousness of being who you are, and physically it shows up as stuttering. And also I already mentioned lowering your head or looking around, or just kind of looking around and not being fully present and being open to being received by another human, by other people. Also blushing. Blushing is another physical manifestation or sign of shame. If you ever feel like there's a wave of blood and you feel like you're blushing, it's just know that it's a way that the body shows that there is shame underneath it. Some of the verbal signs of shame is, like I mentioned, stuttering is one of them, or in general, difficulty speaking. If you have a difficulty of expressing yourself and speaking or being visible and sharing what's there for you, it's another sign of shame. Self-deprecating or inappropriate statements, that's also indication of shame. Or extensive apologizing for what you have done, or feeling like you've done something wrong and you need to apologize. That's another sign of shame. Or speaking very quietly or softly and being afraid to being heard, and so you just kind of talk very quietly like this, or don't want to be heard, just kind of trying to numb yourself and being afraid of your words, your expression being seen, because underneath it is shame of being, and the fear of being judged for that, for mistaken belief that you're flawed or that you're wrong in some way. So just notice in yourself as I'm bringing all of this up. I remember when I first started self-identifying that I was carrying a lot of shame, I just felt a relief, a sense of, oh, it's not just me, it's not just my experience, and I'm the only one there's something wrong with. but it's a human, especially Western woman conditioning. I started feeling okay, I can just let it go. I don't need to carry it anymore. And there's a sense of relief came. So just notice for yourself, put in the comments, what are some of the ways that you notice experiencing shame? And how do you feel that now that I'm naming all of these things, what is coming up for you? So other signs of shame are, let's look at the masks of shame. When we don't want anybody to know that we're experiencing shame, when we don't want to admit that we're experiencing shame, how do we mask it? So one of the masks is being shy. It's kind of, we say, I'm just shy, and we think it's just a trait. But a lot of times that shyness behavior of being shy, it's expression and a mask of shame. The other ways that we try to mask shame is to overly trying to people please. When we try to please others excessively and always there to help somebody and please somebody, it's another mask of shame. Another mask of shame, which is huge and so often it's not understood, it's perfectionism. How many of you put it in the chat? If you are recovering perfectionist or still in perfectionist phase where you just feel like everything has to be perfect, you have to be perfect, or until you're perfect, you cannot, it's like a block, you cannot do anything until you're perfect, until your life is completely put together, until you feel like, oh, now I'm perfect and now I can do things. But this is a mask of shame when it's an illusion that you somehow will one day arrive with feeling perfect, because the truth is it will never arrive, that day when you're perfect. And you are already perfect. So as I'm naming this, I would love to hear some of the things that you perhaps have been procrastinating. So it's another mask of shame is procrastination, because procrastination is very much linked to perfectionism. So what are some of the things that you just were waiting for it to be perfect before you can do it or share it or be seen or let out what is there for you to share? So for me, I'll share with you, for longest time when I worked on my first website, it took me a whole year to launch it, to publish it, because I was just, oh no, this I have to keep polishing here. I need to keep polishing here. What if it's not perfect? What if, no, I need to create another image. I need to do another photo shoot or whatever that is, or fix here, fix there. And it's exhausting being in that cycle of constantly trying to be perfect and whatever you do to be perfect. So I'd love to hear, and after I finish, I will come back and look over your comments, and let's just let it out. This is now the opportunity to let it out, because I'll share in a moment what are the cures for how do we heal shame, because there's a way to heal shame and it's very powerful. So let me take a look. Another mask of shame is embarrassment. When you feel embarrassed about what you said or about how you look, or embarrassment about how you performed. Like if you go out public or make a talk and then you start to get really like that, what is it called? Like a shame, being overly exposed. It's a shame of feeling overly exposed. And then you start questioning, did I say it right? Oh, I wish I said it differently. Or you rehearse yourself. That's another mask of shame, where you overly rehearse what you're going to say, how you're going to be. And maybe sometimes it even looks like you don't want people to come to your home because you are ashamed of what it looks like or what you have, or Another way of masking shame is constantly cleaning. How many of you fell into that trap? Or constantly trying to make things look just perfect. Because if it's not, you're going to be too exposed, and people will find out that you're flawed, or that you're bad, or that somehow you don't meet that unreachable standard of your own mind and society and what you perceive society wants you to be. So another way, so one way is kind of like feeling that you are too shy or trying to be perfect, but another mask of shame is grandiosity, which is kind of like, I'm gonna be big, I'm gonna be amazing, and you're just like, oh, and you want to, because it's a lot of times like, yeah, I'm gonna be amazing, I'm gonna be, and nobody will find out that deep inside, I don't feel good about myself. So it comes with like, no, look at me, I'm so incredible. So you see that those are two, shyness and feeling embarrassed. It's one side of the coin, but on the other side of the coin is grandiosity and feeling like you are better than somebody else. But those are just two coins of the same underlying pain of feeling that there's something wrong, you're flawed, and the shame that goes with it. Another way that shame shows up is the shame of your own feelings, the shame of your shame of shame. It's another whole level of feeling ashamed, is that you're ashamed of your own shame. And you're also maybe ashamed of your emotions, of feeling sad, or feeling grief, or being ashamed of your anger. How many of you feel like you cannot show anger to the world, and that's a shame? And anger is just a normal emotion. We all have that need to experience anger, to set boundaries, to have healthy relationships. We need to experience certain level of anger. And so many of us, women who have been conditioned, be a nice girl, be quiet, don't cry, don't make a fuss, just fit into this box. But we goddesses don't fit into any boxes. We are a whole range of emotions and human experiences. And my wish for every one of you is to release yourself, unleash yourself from any boxes that society or conditioning of where you came from or society that you're a part of might have put you into, and you continue to put yourself into. So let's break free of all of those conditionings, and breaking free of shame is a really big part of feeling free. Shame really creates a sense of lack of freedom. When you're experiencing shame, there's no way you can feel free. So let me take a look if there's anything else. So another mask of shame is excessive modesty. Just trying to be super modest. I don't need anything. And even being ashamed of your desires, of wanting something, wanting more. How many of you are ashamed as spiritual seekers? You might have a shame about your desires and wanting something that you don't have currently. And it also can look like isolation, because it's hard to have intimacy, like I already mentioned. When you are experiencing yourself as flawed, it's hard to have intimacy. And it might look like separating yourself, hiding the truth of who you are, hiding your truth, hiding your authenticity. Let's continue taking deep breath, because it is through breathing and acknowledgement and seeing this pattern and all of these ways that we might have tried to mask shame clearly. That's how we can heal. All right, so anything else? Also, defensive mechanisms of shame is when you start being judgmental of others, or when you criticize others, It's like, no, you're not going to see my flaws because it's only I can see it, or you don't even allow yourself to see it because you deeply inside believe that you're somehow flawed. And then it shows up as pointing finger at somebody else, look, and pointing at flaws on another person. It's a way of reflecting and deflating from the pain of feeling inside of how you feel flawed. Blaming others, pointing fingers, blaming, and feeling inadequate, feeling like there's just somehow others are better, and comparing yourself with others who you perceive to be doing better, to be more, fill in the blank. And other way that shame shows up as a deflection is on the surface being angry, like being angry at another person, but deep underneath there is shame and you don't want to show it. Okay, so now let's dive into what is the healing that the shame needs us to be able to free itself, to free ourselves from it. First of all, we need to acknowledge the things that we are ashamed of, and being able to share it with somebody and being witnessed by somebody who is a safe person for you to express it to. And it's the key is the safe container. When you feel safe, that in your vulnerability, in your revealing of the shame that you feel about yourself, that you will not be judged, that you will not later somebody bring it up and say, see, that's why you're a bad person, and bring it up and remember that. But know that this is a space where you can just release. So speaking it out loud and being witnessed by somebody, that's what shame means. Because natural way how shame stays is to be unacknowledged and to stay in the dark. But by being witnessed by someone who is holding safe space for you, you allow that what out of darkest of the corners, out of the basement, to come up into the light. And so you can express it and be received with love and acknowledgement that there's nothing wrong, we all experience it. And the other powerful thing is to witness other people releasing their shame. There's something absolutely incredible happens when you are able to witness other people naming and releasing and acknowledging that they're releasing their shame. So for example, if I were to say, I am ashamed of having cellulite on my thighs, and going swimming and other people witnessing me. So when I say that, I release that, and I know that I'm held in safety. Let's all promise this in this group. And when you witness somebody else saying what they are ashamed of, not only the person who is sharing, there's something you unearth and bring it out into the light. Okay, I don't need to hide it anymore. And also the person who is witnessing can also feel the relief and recognize that whatever shame that they're holding on to, it's also universal. It's not their own secret. So that's it. We have to let it out. Whatever we are holding as something is wrong and flawed that we perceive to be about ourselves, when we share it, when we reveal it to others, it's no longer a secret. And shame cannot tolerate secrets. The healing of shame is to release the secrets. Like when you bring it into the light, there's no secret. And that's how shame disappears. It evaporates. And another powerful way is some kind of cathartic release. I do this a lot with my clients in session, when either a bowl or a pillow where you speak to the object and then throw it out and release. I am ashamed of, I release the shame of cellulite on my thighs. And then you just throw it out. Sometimes with the sound like, ah, you let it out, ha, and you throw whatever object that is. And the other way is to actually give it back to the person who gave you. If there's something that you're ashamed of about yourself, you have the power of giving it back to them. You can just also with an object, throw it or hand it over. It's not yours. You don't need to carry it. You can just give it back to them because it doesn't belong to you. So let's take a moment now and look at the distinction, because there's very powerful distinction between guilt and shame. Although they feel very similarly in the body, the sensation is very similar in the body. Before we go there, I'd love to hear, put it into the chat, in the comments. What does shame feel like in your body when you're experiencing shame? What does that feel like in your body? Does it feel like you pull in your belly, you're tight, like you're holding, like you're hiding something? Or does it feel like some restriction in your genitals? Or does it feel like tightness in the shoulders? Or does it feel like a clump in your throat? Or something stuck in your throat? Just notice, what does that feel like? And put it in the chat. So let's look at the distinctions. So there are several distinctions between guilt and shame. So guilt is a judgment about ourselves. It's like a judgment. You judge yourself. And shame is an experience of yourself, of ourselves as defective, like broken, in some way broken. So see, guilt is when I did something wrong, and shame is I'm wrong. And it's very different. With guilt, when you perceive that you did something wrong, you can repair it by making up for that. If you feel like you did something wrong, you can either write a letter of apology or do something or give to charity where you make up for the wrongdoing. While with shame, you need to release it because it's a flaw belief that you are in some way defective or broken or wrong, or a mistake altogether. I'm a mistake, I'm wrong. So that's very different. I did something wrong and I'm wrong and I'm a mistake altogether. So again, guilt is about wrongdoing and shame is about the self being wrong, unworthy as a person. I'm not worthy of amazing life. I'm not worthy of bigger salary, or I'm not worthy of abundance. I'm not worthy of the most fulfilling, intimate, blissful relationship, or I'm not worthy of this really good friendship, or I'm not worthy of help, support. So just keep paying attention whenever you feel like there's something that you're not able to receive that you really want. Look underneath it, because a lot of times there's shame, that you feel unworthy in some way of receiving it. And guilt is worry about punishment, being punished for doing something wrong. And shame has underneath it, there's a fear of abandonment. Because if you believe yourself as wrong, if you believe that there's something wrong with you, see how it's very connected to a fear of being abandoned. If I am wrong, that means I don't deserve somebody staying with me, somebody wonderful staying with me. So that fear of being left or abandoned is how shame shows up a lot. And guilt motivates us to confess in something that we did wrong, and in that way to repair what was done wrong. And shame motivates us to conceal, to hide. So very different. And the only way that we can feel shame is to really release it, because it's at the core of shame. It's a lie. And anytime that you experience something like, I should be this, I should be that, I should be more evolved, I should know better, I should know how to do this, underneath it is shame. And just one more thing I want to say is that anytime you tell yourself, I should, just catch yourself, because every should is a lie. Imagine that. Every single should that you tell yourself, it's a lie. It's not real. If you say, I should be a better parent, I should be a better mother, or I should be a better therapist, or I should be a better coach, I should be a better lover, I should be a better wife, I should be a better woman, a better human. Underneath it, sister, is shame. And you have the power to release it and be healed from that wrong perception of who you are. You are beautiful, you are perfect, you are divine, you're a goddess. Can you just say in this moment, I know we're all, you're watching in this moment, let's lift our arms and just really feel yourself being freed from the belief that somehow there's something wrong with you. And when you open your arms and let the goddess that you are shine and be seen, and know for yourself that you are perfect no matter what circumstances you find yourself as you're watching this video right now. Socially, in your relationship, financially, in your romantic relationship, in your work or your purpose, no matter where you are and how many or what challenges or troubles or difficulties or pain you're in this moment, just take a moment to feel compassion for that tender part of you. First, starting with compassion, tender part of you that at some point in your journey, you believed in the lie that you're flawed. Oh my gosh, what a relief to recognize that it's just in that deep subconscious layers of you that belief has been stored for all these years, decades. And you can be free from it. You can just be yourself and be the gift that you are by being authentically yourself. So let's stretch our arms all together. Just imagine other women who are on the similar path as you, and that you are not alone, that you walk this path and internalize the belief that there's something wrong with you. But all these women, imagine that you're standing in a circle with women who have been on a very similar journey. And we're all collectively healing shame. We're doing this ancestral past 7 generations, future generations, and we're clearing our family lines energetically. We're purifying and realigning with the divinity that we are. Isn't that amazing what we're doing? It's such a holy work that we're all doing of clearing and liberating at the deepest core level. So with that, I close our conversation today, and please share in the chat. What are the things that you're releasing? What are some of the shames that you never were able to share with anybody? What are some of the flaws that you thought that you were flawed? I love each one of you so much, and I see brilliant, magical things happening for you as we continue to heal collectively together. Much love.